Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Welcome to The Ugly Radio on the Podmoth Network, a lo-fi sci-fi audio theater anthology series made for late nights and strong drinks. Join us monthly as we broadcast a pirate signal across time and space, featuring stories, songs, and frequencies from a rotating list of voice actors, writers, storytellers, and musicians. If you're looking for high-quality science fiction, skin-crawling horror, and other genre fiction, listen to The Ugly Radio on the Podmoth Network, now available wherever you get your podcasts. The Ugly Radio. See you in the void.
Hey, Twisted Listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder
and lists.
And we're brought to you by the Podmoth Podcasting Network. Check out the other shows. And Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. We're recording this on New Year's Day. Yeah, it's a day.
It's a day. I had a super mellow. Well, no, last night was mellow. The weekend wasn't mellow. Friday, I coordinated a wedding. And last night, I did stay up till midnight, but I was doing what I do like every night, which was basically just nothing, kind of getting ready to go to sleep.
Very exciting. Yeah,
very
Happy
exciting.
New Year. Yeah.
Happy New Year. So, anyway, and I know you went and hung out with friends, which is cool.
I did. I was social, which was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we had an opposite day.
Yeah.
That day. For last night. So, yeah, we are going to kick off the new year with something we've both wanted to do. I chose, right?
Yes. It was my suggestion though, so it feels like it was my choice.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I wanted to do this like where my idea for this list was murderers who ended up or like attackers who end up getting murdered as a result. So like they're trying to kill somebody and they get killed. There's definitely one story about that nurse whose like husband hired somebody to kill her and she ended up killing him. But there's not like a ton of that. So this is vigilante murders.
It kind of is in a way.
Yeah, it widens the scope a bit to include
vigilante.
Yeah. So
yeah, and also I want to specify before getting into this that obviously like we picked only people where the person getting vigilante killed is like a kind of a villain. However, big caveat, like big footnote here, there's a lot of questionable vigilante murders. Like we talked about the subway guy at one point.
Yeah.
We talked, there's like people call fucking Kyle Rittenhouse, whatever, quote unquote vigilante. And I'm like,
which is no, that's not at all what that is.
Or George Zimmerman, or like, all these assholes. So there's a real slippery slope with vigilanteism where it's like you can just kill someone and call it that. And it's like, no, in order for you to be a vigilante, you have to be avenging something.
Yeah, it has to be like kind of legitimate and not just in like your twisted fucking head.
Not in your mind.
So,
Yeah.
Real quick before we get into the cases, did want to talk about the Idaho college student murders. There was the arrest of what's his name? Brian Koberger.
The Idaho student murders. It's been the topic of the week, couple days.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. We definitely we just covered it. We've been keeping up on it. I did a TikTok about it and had to do it 3 fucking times because TikTok trolls are the worst. For instance, I put on the TikTok closed captions because I think it's a nice thing to do so people can read along. And the TikTok closed captions misspelled Xana's name. And somebody commented it's like with the proper spelling of her name, even though the photo I showed of her had the proper spelling of her name and I said her name correctly. And I wrote and I was like, yeah, I just use, TikTok's closed captions. They misspelled it. And they're like, well, I just wanted you to know so you don't do that again. And I was like, I didn't, what? I didn't do it. Like,
People have a lot of time and
it's just like, but not a lot of brain cells.
right.
So there was a lot. Like I said that he was a graduate student who went to DeSales University, and they're like, he goes to the University of Washington. I'm like, yeah, but he got his undergrad at DeSales, and that's where the photo I was talking about was
Right.
from. So there was just like a lot of trolling
That sounds
bullshit.
frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you go watch our TikTok, it opens with me being like, this is my third attempt because trolls are fucking scumbags, die in a fire. But if you guys want to watch
Little
that,
extra teaspoon of Cindy spice there.
yeah, I
Picante
said it
spice.
again because I talked about like the 4chan thing, and then I was like, you know, that's where trolls go to die. I was like, also TikTok is where trolls go to die. So anyway, if you guys want to check it out, please feel free.
You want to
a little
see
of my
Cindy on her
wrath in
last
there.
hit, what's the word? Last
Nerve.
leg.
My
Nerve. Yeah,
last
last
fucking
nerve.
yeah, it was pretty funny.
Uh,
Speaking of which, if you'd like to join us on Patreon, which you guys honestly are the wind beneath our wings. I'm
Yes.
sorry we don't do more on there. It's because we do so much here, but we are
But we
hoping to
will.
get some more stuff out. And Diva's always adding to the murder map. So if you'd like to join us there, it's patreon.com/twistedlisters. If you would like to join us on TikTok and watch my rage, it's just at Twisted Listers.
Hmm?
If you'd like to join us on Instagram, you can do that at.
Twisted Listeners PCast.
And if you would like to check out our website, you can do that at.
TwistedListenerspod.com.
And if you'd like to email us with case suggestions or anything else, you can do that.
TwistedListenerspod at gmail.com.
That's right. All right, here
Yep.
we go. Let's get into it. You're on first, right?
I think so. Yep.
All right.
All right. Oh my God. Okay. 17 prefaces for this. So this is an advanced level story. Like this is, as they say on last podcast, this is gold star. This is
Okay.
like very advanced level violence
Okay.
and disturbing stuff. So
You gave me a little pre-warning before we started recording.
okay. So also I'm obsessed with watching every true crime show on every streaming service I can for that's been my holiday season thing. And I found that Netflix has dropped some very solid Indian shows about true crime in India.
Oh, is this what you're doing?
Yeah. This is
Okay.
actually why I thought of this topic was this case because I just watched this fantastic insane fucking documentary called Murder in a Courtroom.
Yes.
So if you want to go watch Murder in a Courtroom, this is basically I'm going to summarize what happens in it for you. I watched all this fucking content for you. So okay.
Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome. This is the murder of Akku Yadav. And props out also shout out to Sam, my husband, who sat through watching all of this with me too.
Was he not into it? I feel like he would like it.
No,
It
of
was
course
kinda
he likes
interesting.
horrible violent shit. Yeah, no, he's
Okay.
fine. But
Okay.
he also had to watch this.
Had to watch it. Okay. And it's gnarly.
Oh, okay. All right. So this happened in 2004 in Nagpur in sorry, God damn it. Maharashtra. That's the province, but we'll just say Nagpur. And this is going to take place in the neighborhood, which is really only a couple like square blocks of Kasturba Nagar.
Okay.
I should do more Indian stories too. There's a lot of crazy true crime there.
There's so much.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild. I mean, there's a ton of people there, so it makes sense,
of course.
you know. Yeah.
So and also as we'll talk about, less than useless police, actually.
Yes.
Really shit police. Okay.
Garbage.
Like everywhere, but they're especially bad.
Yes.
So Akku Yadav here is a notorious gangster and criminal crime boss, essentially, that ruled over this neighborhood, Kasturba Nagar, in the city of Nagpur. He basically is a supervillain. That's the only way to describe him. He spent his time robbing very poor people of like their last money. He committed a series of super, super horrific murders and rapes and tortures and assaults of all kinds of people.
Okay.
With his kind of buddies, he would gang rape women and very young girls.
Nope.
And he would often mutilate them or kill them. His gang was notorious for just busting up into people's houses and committing horrific acts and stealing from them, starting as early as 1991. So this is like 13 years.
In the making. Yeah.
And he almost exclusively preyed on the Dalit caste, which if you don't know what castes are in India, they're kind of like permanently fixed social classes that you actually cannot move up from.
Right.
You're in it. That's it. You're poor. Like, end of story. And they overlay very interestingly with capitalism.
Yes, they do.
In interesting ways. So
yes.
But the Dalit caste is considered the lowest one. They're on the bottom. They have typically very dark skin. No accident there. And they're
Yeah.
called the Untouchables. They're like
Mhm.
really they're shit on tremendously in all kinds of ways.
If you guys wanna read, a fiction book that really touches on this, it's one of my favorite books I've ever read in my entire life. It's by Arundhati Roy, and it's called The God of Small Things, and it is
Mm.
such a fucking I'm getting, like, goosebumps even thinking about it. It's such a beautiful and just, like, absolutely fucking heartbreaking story.
I just read her book Capitalism: A Ghost Story, which is about capitalism in India.
Yeah, well, so
Yeah.
is this book, but, like, in a, fictional way, so it's really
Yeah.
poetic and beautiful. What'd you think
It's
of
great.
that book, by the way?
Really good. Really
Yeah,
easy. Yeah.
dude, she's rad.
Beautiful. Not
Any
easy like dumb, but like a easy to read book.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's awesome.
Um
Okay, anyway,
Okay,
sorry.
anyway, so of course, because the Dalek caste, when you commit crimes against them, police cares even less than they would do otherwise, right? So
Right.
he keeps purposely preying on them.
Easy.
And when he steals from people, he would often steal like literally the last few rupees they had, and their family and their families would go without food for days.
Wow.
Like really
That's
horrible.
yeah, it feels intentional, like torturous
Or
and just
stealing like the kerosene that they needed to heat their food, or like the really essentials that they can't live without is what he's
yeah,
stealing.
and that he doesn't need it all. So he's just a
No,
fucking evil devil.
yeah,
Horrible.
yeah.
Yeah.
He, for instance, took the entire stock of a woman's little like shop, just took
Mhm.
all of it, and she was like, "Oh, I'm destitute." Like
Wow.
instantly.
That's so fucked.
Yeah. Over the years, he was arrested 14 times, but he's always released, and he's like
Mhm.
basically widely known to be best friends with the police. He often bribed them, and sometimes he would serve as a police informant about other criminals as
Mhm.
well to get on their good side. The most punishment he ever got was being detained for a year in 1999, but oftentimes but he's also treated very well in prison, so he kind of uses it like a vacation. He doesn't even care.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah.
It's like that scene in Goodfellas when they're like in prison, but they're like cooking like this amazing Italian meal,
Yeah,
and they have this like
exactly.
giant,
It's like Pablo
you know,
Escobar's prison, wink, wink,
yeah, wink,
it's
wink,
like
or
fine.
Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
Um, so I'm gonna talk about some of the horrific violence against women he committed. So fair warning, everyone. And
yep,
I am literally gonna cherry pick. I'm not even going through the full list, so keep that in mind.
yeah.
Um, it's estimated that he raped at least 40 women and girls, but definitely
Jesus.
more.
Okay.
And he raped a 10-year-old girl, was one of his younger victims.
Mm,
Um, Often he would rape them in like public view, like just because he knew he had no
just because he
consequences would
could.
come to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
One victim of his was a woman named Asha Bai, and he killed her in front of her granddaughter.
Jesus Christ.
And he just showed up to her house while she was eating dinner with her family, dragged her out of the house, this is in front of her whole family, and he hacked her to death and stabbed her. He cut off her ears to use as earrings,
Oh my God.
and then cut her fingers off to get the rings off.
Was there any like? Do they know him? Is there any sort of like? Is it
He's
just
literally just a
random?
terrorist. He's just a terrorist of the neighborhood. That's it.
Wow.
That's all of it. Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes, yeah, it's he never has to have a motive. This guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Akku also killed this woman named Asha Bhagat, who was like kind of becoming a little bit of a hero in the neighborhood because she dared to stand up to him.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a
Stand
good idea.
Exactly. Yeah, she was standing up for people and trying to help the poor people in the neighborhood. She held kind of like a light not a crime house, but she kind of had a gambling house where she sold
Mhm.
alcohol and drinks. So she was kind of like shaping up to be a little bit of a benevolent crime boss, kind of like a little rival to him.
Yeah,
So
like, she probably would have ended up corrupting as well had she got
potentially, but
yeah.
she was much better, obviously. She wasn't
Mhm.
murdering anyone,
Right.
just gambling. So Aku ended up attacking her, and he tortured her in front of her daughter, and he cuts off her breasts,
Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
then dismembers various parts of her in the street. Like, a lot of people can just see this shit. And then someone who threatened to report him for this murder, he also killed him. So there's like a chain of murders
Right.
attached to hers. And again, I'm omitting like a couple that are like even gnarlier than this. Like,
That's really thank you, first of
yeah,
all, and also what the fucking fuck? And he's just doing this, like, in
yeah.
the middle of the street and, like,
And the cops are like,
nobody
"Good job, guy." Yeah.
Jesus Christ,
And so
dude.
such was his hold over this neighborhood that he actually had rules that everyone just abided by, lest they get tortured as well.
Wow.
Groups of people couldn't gather or play games. He wanted total silence as he passed through, and no one could look at him, or he would attack you.
Dude, fuck this guy. What a
Right.
fucking dickhead. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
Oh, yeah.
obviously the murdering is terrible, but like, who the fuck? Like, you're just some fucking guy,
You're just a
dude. Like,
guy. You're just
fuck
a guy. Yeah.
you.
Yeah, the ego of it all too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild. In one story, crazy story from the show, they talk about how a funeral procession waited for over an hour down the street from him because they couldn't pass by him.
Oh,
So they
fuck
just waited.
him.
Yeah.
Oh,
So because of his assholery here, the whole neighborhood was essentially shut down. Like people wouldn't go
yeah.
outside. Their economy was kind of frozen. There could be no commerce, no stores, no weddings, no parties, like no dancing, no music, anything, nothing. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
can't believe
Indian
that this is
culture is
just like
very into all that shit. So
right. Yeah. So
yeah.
this is just like, and where the fuck did this guy come from? Like, I just don't
Apparently
understand.
his family, I think his older brother was into crime bossery a bit as well.
You need
Um,
to just get like, yeah, no, fuck this.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. So August 1st of 2004, here's our start of our timeline. That's just the background of like what this guy's up to here.
Hmm.
Um, so the people of the neighborhood have fucking had the fuck enough. Sorry, that was loud. Eventually, they're like, we've had enough. We're fucking done with this fucking asshole. So kind
Yeah.
of a resistance slowly grows here.
Hmm.
Even though they're all, of course, really afraid. So he
But that's
threatens
how it
a
always goes, you
yeah,
know? Like it's the government. It's like people always find a way to
yeah.
like fight back, which is awesome. Except for Americans.
So
What the fuck? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. We accept our ruling order with a smile, I guess.
Yeah.
So he threatens a woman named Usha Narayane. He threatens to rape her, throw acid on her, do his thing.
Hmm.
And he comes to her house to like, hey, I'm gonna murder you, knock knock. And this badass bitch, she brings a whole ass can of kerosene gas to the door, puts the little spout like out a
Hmm.
hole or something,
Yeah.
and says, if you fucking come in this house, I am gonna light a match and blow us up. That's what
Wow.
I'm gonna do. Yeah. And people realize what's happening. And she says that this is like a turning point moment here because people all kind of collectively come out of their houses and are like, get the fuck off her doorstep, Akku. And all of a sudden he runs away scared.
Dude, I wish they'd done this sooner.
Yeah, I know, but they're fucking terrified, dude.
Yeah, but he's not a
Um,
god. All you have to do is hit him, like stab him. Stab him with a knife. He'll bleed. He'll die. Like, it's not that. I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying murder him, but I'm
I
just
mean,
saying
he
like
has a gang around with him too, so
yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true.
yeah,
People don't
so
realize
there's
how powerful they are, so it's good that they started to.
it's true. They did start to, and so anyway, he runs away in fear, and a mob of men, women, and children basically chase him away with sticks, and they're like, "Get the fuck away!" Right?
It's
So
awesome.
from then on, they kind of a movement grows, and they are like, "Oh fuck this guy." Okay.
Yeah,
So they gather rocks and weapons, and they're just looking for him everywhere.
I love
Um,
that.
they yeah, they ask police to arrest him and can you get him for us, but the police tell the neighborhood person who asked this, can you get him for us, this is the police.
Oh, the cops, they're like, "Will you do it? We're
Yeah,
scared." Like, "Oh,
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
fucking pieces of trash."
Yes. So the community holds a press conference trying to get attention to this issue. Reporters don't take them seriously. Their reporters literally laugh at them. They say,
Mhm.
well, if women were raped, why didn't they lodge complaints, which by the way they did, lots of them.
Yeah, like
um the Indian press puts nothing, doesn't work, they don't get any attention. The next day 100 people demolish Aku's house with
yes,
their
that's
bare
amazing.
hands
That's
because they're just
amazing.
like, well, we got to do something, we're just all this pent up energy.
Yeah, I've had enough. Fuck this
Yeah.
guy.
On August 7th, Akku is strategically arrested, quote unquote, by a police
Mm.
officer that he's friends with, literally just for protection from the mob. So he's basically
Right.
going to hang out there.
So the only
Um,
reason that they actually take him into custody is to help him because again, the
yes,
police are garbage
yes.
criminals who
He literally, yeah, he had a
they're
whole
just the fucking
plan.
worst.
He tells a cellmate that he was with there that he had a whole plan of how he was going to put hits out on the people that were threatening him when he, from jail. So he had like a
Mhm.
whole like plan laid out.
So he was
And
gonna hide like a bitch until
yeah,
he had somebody else do all his dirty work for him and then come back
yes,
out like a tough guy.
yes,
What a
yes. And
punk.
he was just literally told everyone, I'm just hanging out until like this blows over. They would
Mhm.
get him fast food. He had a great time.
Ugh.
Um, yeah. So the community is freaking out with rage, knowing that he's going to be released. The cops are certainly not going to keep him there.
Mhm.
And a notice gets published to the newspapers saying he's remanded to court on August 13th. So they're like, we know where he'll be on that fucking day,
Yeah.
don't we?
He'll be in the court.
Yes. So this is one of the most badass details of this. and they prepare to attack him in the court the next day in the fucking courtroom, and they literally take pieces of scrap metal and forge knives. They make homemade knives.
Holy shit.
It's like a
Wow.
medieval looking scene almost. They're like forging and shit.
Yeah, I can like see this. There's like a fucking montage happening of
Yeah,
this.
yeah, exactly. Rocky theme playing. They're
Yeah.
like fucking so when Akku appears in court, a woman whom he had raped is there because the whole crowd was like kind of like waiting for him to get
Mhm.
there, right? And this victim of his is there, and he quote mocked her. This is a quote, called her a prostitute and said he would rape her again. The police laughed.
Wow. I hope,
Mm,
because I know what happens. I hope the cops are afraid of these people now because they fucking should
mm.
be.
So then here's what happens. You already know, it's the show I told about is called Murder in a Courtroom. But so a mob of women that ultimately got up to 400 people at
Holy
one point
shit.
rush into the courtroom, this giant mob of mostly women, and they attack Aku like insanely. They stab him 75 times.
Yes.
He's disemboweled.
Woo.
They throw chili powder in his eyes.
Yeah, I hope he was alive at that point.
They crush his head with a large stone.
Ooh.
They cut off all his body parts. One
Yeah.
woman cut off his penis, which is very symbolic.
I'm sure others were like trying to, and she just got there first. I
She
guarantee
got
that was like everybody's thought. Like, cut his
yes,
dick off.
yes.
That'd be my
And
thought.
yeah, he is just like literally ripped apart with their bare hands.
And
And people they
they're made shanks.
and homemade shanks. They pass around the shanks so that everyone can get a stab in because they want it to be like a group activity here.
Yeah.
And he was dead within about 15 minutes.
Wow. I'm glad it
um,
took that long though. I hope it fucking hurt. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't believe in the death penalty because I don't believe in state sanctioned violence, but like
right.
vigilante shit, I'm kind of here for.
I
I'm just
mean,
gonna
no
say
one
it.
feels bad for this guy. No one.
No,
No one.
no.
So as he was attacked, he yelled, quote, "Forgive me, I won't do it again," which I roll.
Yeah.
You
Isn't that
would.
cute?
You hella
Yeah,
would.
yeah. What a fucking little bitch.
Yeah, yeah. Among the group is Anja Bai Borkar, whose daughter Asha Bai had been murdered by Akku, and Usha, the woman who he had nearly attacked, who fended him off. So like these are
Kerosene.
literally his victims as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
They all are basically. The whole
Yeah.
neighborhood is. And after the murder, this is like the end of Revenge or what's the movie Return of the Jedi. After the
Mhm.
murder, there's a huge party. They're passing out food. There's like a street festival, just like all of a sudden, and also because they hadn't been able to have parties, so all of a sudden they're
Right.
like, we can
We're
have dancing, we
free.
can have music. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like I said, Indian culture is a party culture, so
Yeah. Fuck yeah,
they're
it
all
is.
about it.
Yeah.
So police give a press conference. The reaction to this is going to make you insane. So police give a press conference saying the assailants fled, but they're looking for them. They quickly arrest a smattering of different people who killed Akku,
Mhm.
and they negotiate with some of them, saying, "Look," they go to the neighborhood and they say, "You have to give us 5 people to arrest." That's what they
Come
say.
on.
So older women actually volunteer, saying it's better for us to go than our like young daughters, right?
Oh, God, I love this community.
Right? Yeah, they're cool as hell. And all the women basically stand in solidarity with each other, and they're saying we
Mhm.
all killed him. Like no one tries to hide it. They're like, yeah,
Yeah.
we did, I did, I did, I did,
I
I did.
did me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And protests erupt in Nagpur in support of the women, demanding that those 5 be released. And
Right.
of course, police harass the protesters, and they're like, this badass like all these Indian women in this documentary are like fucking spitting mad. Obviously, the whole time they're talking
Yeah,
about this,
fuck yeah.
and they say this is an exact quote. This lady's like, "Oh, a cop came up to us and asked, what gave you the right to protest, or permission to protest?" And she's like, "I replied, when did Akku get permission to rape and terrorize us? Like, he
Yeah,
didn't."
yeah. Well, it sounds like he
So
kinda did, but that
I
doesn't make
mean,
it okay.
from cops, yeah.
Yeah.
As a form of protest, the neighborhood refuses to hoist the national flag on the 15th of August, which is the Indian Day of Independence. I guess you
Mhm.
have to put the flag up, and they're like, "Fuck you,
Yeah.
flag." So here's a medley. Just I wanted to hear your reaction to this. A medley of insanely angering things that various male commentators say in the documentary. Okay,
This'll be
in
good.
response to the murder. Yeah.
Right.
Why didn't they kill him in his house rather than a courtroom? Why'd
Who
they have to do it
cares?
that day?
God, I
They
hate those kinda
also
arguments.
People also say, I shit you not, that it could not have been women that killed Akku. and they say it was just men dressed in saris pretending to be women because women aren't capable of murder.
I mean,
Um,
good. Continue to feel that way. We're coming for you
yeah.
next, idiot.
Here's
Like,
an
what the
exact
fuck?
quote that a guy says: "Can the hands that cut vegetables kill someone with a knife? I don't think so."
Dude, you about to find out, you dumb bitch.
I'll
Oh
show
my
you what these
god.
vegetable hands can fucking do. No,
Yeah.
and also
Wow.
it's so stupid. There's so many female murderers. Like, are you? No,
And in India, like we've covered them.
tons. Yeah,
Tons.
idiot. Yeah. They
Yeah,
also
whatever.
And also they interview some of his like besties and his gang associates, which I'm sorry, if you're on this fucking show and your subtitle says Akku's friend, guarantee you're a rapist as well.
Yeah, you're
And
an
should
absolute waste of
piece
fucking
of shit.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of his here's some things his friends say. They say, "Oh, he didn't see caste. He wasn't targeting Dalits." Like, yes, he was.
Yes, he was.
They also have a guy who says he didn't harm any women. These are all false accusations. And I'm
Oh,
like,
bullshit. He's fucking said
all
himself that he's done it.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how is he falsely accusing himself? Like, come on.
Another guy says, "How could one man rape so many women?" So that the number is what makes it improbable. And
Just tell us you're impotent, dude. Just tell us you're fucking impotent. Cause
I'm like,
like,
look,
like it's not that hard.
never. That's a dumbass argument. Like Ted Bundy, much like hello.
Yeah, it's not that
Um,
hard to I mean, come on. When you have
if
the fucking police just letting you do whatever you
yeah,
want and you're a piece of shit, like,
yeah, the
no.
police actually come out and officially say that Aku's murder was also not for revenge, but it was just for internal gang dispute. So they try to like mute the narrative that people took justice into their own hands. I think because they don't want people to know that they fucking can.
That they can do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's like these women admit to killing him. They're
Yeah,
not
they're like,
gang
"No,
gang
we did
members.
it. We
Yeah.
did it, like, happily."
So to further support the narrative of the gang dispute, they go into the neighborhood and demand 10 boys. So like I think younger-ish boys, so they can
Mhm.
create the gang rivalry thing. And they do go arrest 10 boys, and then protests ensue that demand their release.
Mhm.
So in 2012, takes a while apparently, but
Yeah.
Nareen was acquitted. Usha, one of the women who was arrested,
Mhm.
and all in all, 6 women, including her, and 15 men were arrested for Aku's
Mhm.
murder. But eventually, they're all released after like some back and
Yay!
forth. Yeah, and it's great because the judge is like, "I declare you innocent." Wink, wink. Like, and the judge cited a quote lack of reliable witnesses and
Yeah.
unreliable police statements, which I kind of love though, because it's like everyone saw this and everyone was there, but the judge is like, no one saw it. Wink, wink, wink.
It's
Like,
just like, the Skidmore case I did,
yep,
for the
yep,
Patreon, where this whole
yeah,
town killed a guy, but nobody ever went to jail for it because
mm-mm.
nobody would talk and nobody would say
Yeah,
anything. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The judge is like, you're fucking innocent. And yeah, so that's the story. I mean, what they did, like of course, is violent. It's horrific, and it's not something you really want to sanction in general. But they were fucking driven to that point by what I can only say is like kind of reasonable means. Like,
I mean, honestly, like, they should never have had to be put in that position,
no,
but
no, of course,
clearly, if they didn't do this, it was honestly self-defense
yes.
because
That's what they said. They said like it was him or us. Like,
yeah, because it
it
really
was
was,
yeah,
and it was,
it
and
literally
that's the
was.
fault of the police, and it's the
Yeah.
fault of the
I think
system.
enduring what these people did endure at the hands of this guy was like would push anyone to this point, I think.
100%.
And you're
100%.
defending your family, you're defending your
They
parents, your
asked
kids
for
as
help.
well.
They
Yeah.
didn't get it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And
what are
they
they
knew
gonna
he
do?
was never they had no legal recourse. They had no
Yeah, exactly.
judicial option here. So what the fuck? Like
Maybe if the
he was
cops in the state actually, like, helped people instead of just trying to, like, enforce, the status
yeah,
quo, they wouldn't have had to do this, but I'm so glad nobody went to jail for his murder, because fuck that
yeah.
guy.
No, truly, fuck him. That's all.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's a really badass. They have like the opening sequence of the documentary is so badass because they have like this song and the women are like getting all their weapons and shit. It's like it's a women's revenge story.
You can tell I mean, okay, that's awesome. I don't listen, like, I'm sitting here being like, "Good, I'm glad they killed him," but, like, it is, like, the horrific murder of somebody. It shouldn't really be turned into, like, almost like a fictionalized, like, fan
Right.
fiction type story. It is really fucked up. And honestly, like, the women who did that, they're not, like, stoked to have done it.
No.
They are
I mean
stoked to be
they do kind
free.
of smile and laugh when they're talking about it though
Well, but
sometimes.
it's not like that's like none of those women would have ever murdered somebody, and they'll never
No.
murder anybody again. You know what I mean? Like it's not like a
No.
good thing that they're getting pushed to this,
No, it sucks that they had to be in that position.
Yeah. Anyway. Wow. All right. Well, I have another vigilante style case here. So, hi, baby. I almost said I have to sneeze. This is a yawn. My brain just doesn't work. So I'm going to do the murder of Matteo Condoluci.
Okay.
This happened on May 14th, 2020 in Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm just going to jump on in. So on May 14th, 2020, just like I said, a man parked his car outside the Omaha home of Matteo Condoluci. He walked towards Matteo's front door, and when Matteo came out to meet him at the front door, the man raised a 9 millimeter gun and shot Matteo 7 times in the head, chest, and body.
Mm.
One bullet went through his forehead and exited his temple, and the rest were like upper body shots. Matteo either fell back into his home or was dragged back in by this man, who then got back into his car and drove away. A few days later, an email came into a few various media outlets. The email read, and I fixed some of the grammar and like spelling, so I'm just going to read it, I think, the way he intended it.
Okay.
Dear media, I am writing this email to let you know that I killed Matteo Condoluci Thursday, May 14th around 9:45 p.m. While out apartment searching and checking the neighborhoods I wanted to live in, I stumbled across his sex offender registry info. I read where he had molested, and then in parentheses, he wrote raped 2 children and been convicted twice, yet only served 2 years in prison for raping children. That's in all caps.
Oh my God.
I saw his address was right around the block from where I was looking to move. I drove by, and to my horror, he was standing in his driveway pretending to wash his truck. And then in parentheses, no soap or water, just a rag, while staring at a group of children playing in the street. I watched him for a few minutes and just felt sick to my stomach. He just kept staring at them. The kids thankfully left, and he went inside. I went to drive away and noticed to my amazement this twice convicted sex offender had a playground set in his backyard. Yeah. No fence, just a slide and a playhouse. I felt sick to my stomach. Having had my own experience with these type of predators, I knew the damage he would do to those kids. It agonized me for days. I couldn't sleep. I researched him more and more and found he had victimized dozens of kids in different states. One kid's mother had created a predator Facebook page about him, trying to warn people about him. Her son had been assaulted by him when he was 5, and the damage he did led the poor guy to die of a drug overdose years later, and his mom directly blamed that incident on him. I've worked with kids for years who have been victimized, and I couldn't in good conscience allow him to do it to anyone else while I had the means to stop him. I'm willing to turn myself in, even though I'm confident I wouldn't be caught, because it's my opinion that we need to fix this in our society. We cannot let this continue to happen to our children. They must be stopped. I know in this messed up judicial system that means I will face far more severe punishment for stopping him than he did for raping kids. But I could no longer do nothing. If you need proof the gun was a 9 millimeter, the front door was left open, and the TV was on. I'll turn myself in as soon as I see this has been released. Regards.
Damn.
Yeah.
That
So,
kind of slaps. That's kind of a good
yeah. It's not.
treatise there.
Yeah, it is. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to break some
Okay.
of it down and kind of get more into it.
Okay.
Matteo's body was found that same day, as no one had reported him missing prior to that point. 3 days later, on Tuesday, May 19th, police arrested 43-year-old James Fairbanks for Matteo's murder. It's unclear if he turned himself in as promised or if police found him on their own. But I do believe he was planning to turn himself in. So I'm going to talk about Matteo now. He was a 64-year-old man, 6'3", 370 pounds, who was planning to pretty soon pack up and move to somewhere in Oregon in the coming months, which just feels like such a perfect mood for a guy like this. He was a father of 2 and a grandfather of at least 1 child at the time of his death. He was also, in fact, a twice convicted sex offender with a long history of trouble with the law. This began in 1993 when Matteo moved in with Laura Smith. It didn't begin, but the offending began in
Okay.
1993 when he moved in with Laura Smith, a single mother with a then 5-year-old son. She
Ugh.
lived and worked in Ormond Beach, Florida. Laura and Matteo hit it off. He was a former bouncer. I think maybe they had met at work, and she was happy to have met a man to help bring a little stability into her life. Pretty quickly, though, things went south. Laura and Matteo moved in together, and one evening she went to the grocery store pretty late at night to grab some last minute items. When she came home, her son was extremely upset, sobbing
Mm.
violently in the bathroom. Mateo said, "Oh, he wet the bed, and that's why he's upset." And Laura was like, "He's never wet the bed before. He's not like a bed wetter. He's not the kind of kid that does that."
Yeah.
So the next day, seeing how upset her son was, she packed up their things and moved out, which fucking good for her. Like to just be
Yeah.
that decisive and like, nope, something happened. I'm protecting my son. I'm getting the fuck out of there. But that same day after they left, probably because he finally felt safe, her son told her that Mateo had touched his penis and made him touch Mateo's penis. He said
Mm.
both had remained clothed but reached inside each other's pants,
Ugh,
which it makes me so fucking sick to think about somebody doing that to a 5-year-old.
it's repulsive.
Like
Yeah.
I picture my kid in my head and it makes me want to fucking kill this guy, which like, huh. So
Mm. Yeah.
yeah,
Not yeah.
yeah. So Laura called the police and Mateo was arrested. However, the case was a mess because it was the word of a 37-year-old man versus a traumatized 5-year-old boy. So Laura decided to take a deal to avoid having her son have to testify and go through that trauma again.
Yeah.
For this, he was given no time.
Mm.
Mateo was given only probation, but he
Ugh,
was made to put his name on the sex offenders list.
oh
So
my
his
god.
name and what he did was now public information. So I just think, if somebody's being put on the list for touching a 5-year-old, like, that feels like it should automatically come with some sort of jail time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah.
Like, you can't what the fuck? Okay, anyway. So, in 2017, we're now jumping forward, when her son was 28, Laura's son, he did in fact die of a drug overdose, and she
Ugh,
said that his drug use was definitely linked to the sexual assault to trying to cope with what had happened to him.
God.
Also, prior to her son's death, she did in fact start a Facebook page to warn people about Mateo. And we'll talk more about that page in a minute, but that's kind of that portion of the story. It's very fucking sad and makes me fucking hate this guy. Now, next in 2007, while now in Nebraska, Mateo raped a 13-year-old girl, right?
Ugh,
So this
ugh,
now 50-year-old man
ugh.
raped a 13-year-old girl. And having previously been a child sex offender and raping a
Mm.
13-year-old, the state of Nebraska gave him a sentence of 5 years.
Okay.
5 years.
But if trust me though, if you're present during an armed robbery, you can get a life sentence though.
Yeah, no problem, especially if you're
Yeah.
black, especially if you're not white, I
Mhm.
should say.
Yeah.
So he is now a serial fucking child molester, assaulter, rapist. But wait, there's more. So Nebraska has some fucking ridiculous, dumb shit, good behavior law, and Mateo got out in 2.5 years. So he raped a 13-year-old and did 2.5 years in prison.
Oh my
After
god.
molesting a 5-year-old and raping a 13-year-old, his total time in prison is 2.5 years. Because being a good prisoner is definitely tied to whether or not you're gonna rape more kids, right?
Oh my god. This is
Yeah.
like exhausting.
Yes, it is. He then lived in Omaha until his very deserved death in 2020. It's unclear who else he sexually assaulted. I know that in that email, the guy, James, said that he had assaulted many other children, and I do not fucking doubt that, but so far nobody else has come forward. So, good job, cops, because this is across state lines. This is in Florida and Nebraska
Oh
that these cops are
god.
doing nothing, right? This is a complete failure of the system. Also, I should mention that Mateo was with or married to a woman for a while, long enough for them to have 2 kids together before splitting up. The kids are close in age and they're named Amanda and Joe, and we'll talk about them more in a minute as well. So now I'm going to
Okay.
talk about James Fairbanks. We're going to switch gears. So James Fairbanks, the vigilante here, was a divorced
Mhm.
father of 2 young children who did in fact work with children in various capacities at school, like in schools, like kids' schools.
Yeah.
He was a man who tried his best, but definitely had some demons of his own. His ex-wife, who did later come to his defense when he was arrested for this, like very staunchly, had at
Yeah.
one point filed an order of protection against him during their divorce proceedings. This was later removed, and I think they shared custody of their young children. He
Okay.
also got let go from at least one of his jobs at one of the schools, though it's unclear why. But it
Okay.
does sound like he has something going on. Like
So there's
there's
some anger or
some anger
some
issues,
yeah.
yes, something where he's not really, like, doing great all the time.
Okay.
So, and his ex did say that he never harmed her in any way. I think emotions were just high and she maybe got a little scared, and
Sure.
that can just be contentious anyway.
Okay.
So there's our major players in this tale. As for what led to the murder, we read his email. James said he was apartment hunting, and because he has small children, he was looking on the sex offender registry to make sure he didn't, move into anybody or near anybody, and then he
Yeah.
found
I've looked
Mateo.
at that map thing before.
Oh, me too. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's a few in my neighborhood. I'm not stoked.
No.
Some of them though were like really stupid. Like there's one where the guy was like 19 and he had like statutory rape, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, okay.
Right.
Like,
That it can be a range of things. Yeah.
yeah, like, and I
But
mean,
still,
I
it's
hope
good to
that
look.
wasn't
It's good to
terrible, but
check.
absolutely, yeah. So anyway, he said, I found Mateo, read about what he did. I felt I had to do something. But at his trial, the prosecution brought a few things to light via his computer searches that kind of throw that narrative under suspicion. So apparently, James may not have actually been apartment hunting, but rather sex offender hunting. So
Mm-hmm.
the prosecution said that he Googled whether Nebraska's death row offers a commissary. So he was like planning to
Oh
get
my
death.
God. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. He's like,
which is
okay. He's like, I got plan out this murder, this whole thing, but will there be snacks?
yeah, will there be
Like,
snacks before I die?
yeah.
Like,
Priorities.
yeah, it's fair. I feel that. He also researched stories of other men who had killed sex offenders and what their various penalties were, because this is a thing. He sought to find out whether a gunshot alert system called Shot Spotter could detect the sounds of a shot from inside a home. So basically, like, if they're going to know, if somebody's going to hear him. He also researched legal definitions of second degree murder versus self defense. He also mapped out a path to the home of yet another unnamed
Mm.
sex offender in the area.
Oh, he was gonna go on a little tour.
Yes, he was on a
Oof.
mission here. But I think that maybe the act of actually murdering this guy stopped him in his tracks. I
Yeah.
think he didn't realize that it would affect him as much as it
Yeah.
did. So he stopped himself after just one murder. So he attempted to claim self-defense, saying that Mateo rushed him. But that's pretty silly because they either, didn't know each other. So why
Right.
would he rush him? Or if Mateo did rush him, it's likely because he saw the gun, which would be
Right.
James' fault, and Mateo would be acting in self-defense.
Self-defense. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Totally.
So, and the jury agreed neither of these arguments worked, and he finally decided to plead no contest because he knew he was going to go to jail for a
Yeah.
very long
I
time.
mean, he wrote the letter. He was admitting it.
Yeah,
So
it's not like we have some sort of
not a mystery.
question here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was sentenced for second degree murder, which is part of the deal, and he was given 40 to 70 years in prison just last year.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. So, going back to Laura Smith, the mother of the 5-year-old, when she heard what happened, she changed the name of her Facebook group from something like Stop Mateo Condoluci to Free James Fairbanks, and began
Mm.
showing her support for him, even getting a
Wow.
petition together asking for his release and also putting together a fund for his defense.
Wow.
So she immediately
Okay.
sprung into action. Her response to Mateo's death was thus, quote, "Flush that POS's remains down the toilet and save the taxpayers money.
Goddamn.
Justice served."
Wow.
Yeah. So
I mean,
she was not
you
sad.
cannot blame a parent for feeling that way. Like,
No,
you
no.
cannot.
But dude, it gets wilder. Okay. Like it
Okay.
gets even crazier. So I mentioned his 2 children, Amanda and Joe. And I also mentioned the Facebook page. So we're going to talk about that.
Mhm.
So after his death, his son Joe came out and said he was very upset about it. His father had changed. He said the playset was there for his son. Joe had a son.
Yeah.
So he could come over and visit. Also, his son's name is Mateo, which I looked up. Mhm.
Okay.
That being said, the mother of the grandson, Mateo, at one point during her divorce or splitting up with Joe, had threatened to call the police over some sort of alleged abuse of the boy on Mateo's part,
Oh my
but
god, don't
later
let your
changed her mind.
kids there.
I know.
Ugh.
So, something's going on, right?
Yeah.
Like, so even Joe, I think he's just traumatized and wants peace, and doesn't want to think of his dad that way. However, Amanda, his daughter, came out in full support of James Fairbanks, full support of
Wow.
her father's murderer. She said that
That's
she
insane.
lived in fear of her father, who sexually abused her entire life.
Holy shit.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
Both kids, both Joe and Amanda, said that their childhood was super chaotic because they had to move so much, but they thought that this was just because of Mateo having to move around because he turned state's witness against a motorcycle gang that he was, why can't I say motorcycle gang? That he was a part of. So he got
Okay.
popped for something related to the motorcycle gang and turned state's witness against them.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he then needed to hide to stay safe because if they found him, they were going to kill him.
Gotcha.
Other
Yeah.
people allege that it was more likely to escape prosecution for various sexual assaults against children in all of the different states. And I think it's
Mm,
probably both. In any
yeah.
case, his daughter is now an admin of the page Free James Fairbanks, which has now been changed to support James Fairbanks. She is an admin of that page. She helps run the page to try to free the man who killed her father. So I think that that says something about this guy.
Holy
No.
shit.
Yeah. So this guy is not missed by many, and it sounds like his death isn't exactly a loss for anyone. I do feel bad that his son is upset, but I feel like his grandson is now safe from harm, which I think is a very good thing.
Yeah. Holy
Um,
shit.
yeah. So going back to James real quick, he has now come out and apologized and said he was sorry for the murder. And somebody asked him, "Is it because of the trauma you put on your family, or because you killed this man?" And he said, let me think about that." I think it's because of the trauma. His
Yeah.
ex, like I said, still supports him, says this is uncharacteristic for him, that he's a gentle man. All I can say is I hope he gets the same treatment that Mateo got because then he'll be out in 20 or less, you know,
Yeah.
for murder, which I feel like if you get 2.5 years after sexually abusing and raping two children
Well,
under the
James
age
said
of
it himself. He was
18,
gonna get more time than the
yeah,
fucking
he
guy
knew.
was for child
He knew.
rape. Yeah.
Yeah. And he seemed
Wow.
fine with it, but I'd like to think that he gets those good behavior years, you know? So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, pretty
I
fucking
mean,
crazy.
obviously, you don't want to endorse vigilante murder because it's like a slippery slope too. Because I saw, and when I was researching cases for this week, I saw plenty of examples of vigilante killings of people who were falsely accused, right,
Yeah, no,
or
that shit
innocent
is
people.
gnarly.
So it
Yeah,
is gnarly,
yeah.
but it sounds like honestly, James kind of did his research and found like the shittiest scumbag he could find. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
he found a
listen,
really bad one.
I'm not down for this really, but like these are the stories that I feel the least bad about. Like when these people
Right.
die, I'm like,
Well,
"Oh,
and it
that's
also
terrible." Like,
yeah, and also, like, having the trauma he had from his past, like, that shit will make you so triggered and feel that rage, like, trust me, like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
something that, like, you don't wanna endorse it, but I also can't blame him for feeling those feelings,
Right. I
so
mean, he worked with kids that were like abused and had these
yeah.
issues, and who knows what happened to him when he was young, if anything. I'm not saying
Mhm.
anything did, but like we just don't know. You know, it
I just
sounds
thought that
I
it
don't
did
know.
because he said, like, "I've experienced with this kind of person." He
Right.
kind of alluded to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, he did work with young children. He has young children of his own, which I think he realized kind of after the fact that what he did was gonna traumatize them, which like
Yeah.
obviously. And in my opinion, it's like, dude, you're not a single guy. Like you are a father. Like now your kids are gonna grow up
You're
without you.
affecting
Like,
them too.
what do you
Yeah.
think that's doing to them? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that part of it really, really bothers me. It would have been better if he was just like a single guy. But
Right. But also, sorry, I was just Googling Matteo,
yeah,
Condoluci, and he's
his
also
face.
was a priest.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
How
I'm
did I
pretty
not
sure. I
know
found a
that?
picture of him wearing a priest thing in front of an altar, and then his Twitter is called at Matt's Ministry.
No, how did I
Yeah,
not know that?
I
Oh,
think he
wait, I
was
did
also a
read something
priest.
about that. I did read
Yeah,
something about that. Which, like, okay, dude, could you be more obvious? Like, could you
yeah. Oh
could
my
you pick
god.
a more, like, are you kidding me fucking profession after being,
Yeah,
like, a
a child
child
molester
raping, like,
turns priest. Yeah.
motorcycle gang member turned FBI agent turned priest? Like, the fuck,
Oh my
dude?
god.
Yeah,
No. Oh my god.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I
Holy
mean,
shit.
that guy's a fucking, grifter. That guy's a
Yeah,
grifter. He's not a
he
fucking
sucks.
priest. Yeah, fuck that guy.
No. Again, not
Anyway.
endorsing murder, but do we feel bad? No.
No, I'm not
No, we
endorsing
do
it, but
not.
I'm also not mourning this motherfucker,
It's
okay?
fucking crazy that his daughter was like, "Yeah, good."
Not only
Like,
is his daughter like, "Yeah, good," she's like, "Hey, let me fucking donate to the fund to
yeah.
get the guy out of prison that killed him." Like,
Wow.
that's probably kinda healing for her,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be away from that. So
for
or to
sure.
to be able to, like, help with that and to know that her father's, like, never gonna hurt her. Again, she has a young kid too. It's like, she probably feels a lot better. She probably feels a lot of relief.
Wow.
So,
Oh
yeah.
my
So
gosh.
there it is. That's, those are our first 2.
Okay.
Pretty fucking wild, dude.
Tune in for part 2. My second one is amazing as well. So
Did I pick a second one yet? I don't
I
think I
think you did.
did.
I think
Did
you
I?
did. Yeah.
Oh, if I did, then it's the one I think it is. It's also pretty good. So,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, it's been a wild weekend. I'm a little tired. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for
Mm-hmm.
supporting us. We love you. We appreciate you. Don't forget to like, rate, review, share us with your friends. We'd like to keep growing this year.
Yeah.
You know, cutting back a little bit on the amount of podcasts we're doing, the amount of like stories has allowed us to kind of do more on Instagram and other places. So we're going to
Mm-hmm.
keep doing that. And thanks everybody. We love you. Thanks for all your emails and Instagrams and everything. It's been great. And until the next half,
Day.
off our
Let's.
let's.
No.
Album.